I felt like I was using my words to paint a picture, to tell a story, to evoke emotion. And I feel like painters do that when they paint a portrait. I feel like sculptors do that when they create a sculpture. So for me, while I was writing, and I would have not necessarily made the connection prior to me starting writing,
Oh,
right?
that's interesting.
But as I started the writing process, I felt most like an artist, and I understood what it meant to create art, and I became sensitive about that art that I was creating. And
Okay.
so for me, writing is definitely related to being an artist, and I feel like a writer is indeed an artist. As I was visiting him, and went into the visitation room, and there was like a glass partition, of course, with the phone, and my mom and my grandma were there, and we were walking through, and I was like, of course, 3, so I'm like nervous, right? And the fact that I can even remember it means of just how jarring of an experience it was, right? Like, because at 3 years old, many people don't remember things at 3, and I don't remember the rest of my 3-year-old years except probably that experience, right? And so when I got into the visitation room and I saw my dad on the other side of the glass partition, and mind you, as any little kid you would imagine, like their dad is their hero, right? Like this is the person that they emulate, and especially for a young boy. Like this is the person who you see yourself as. He's the bigger version of you. And so I walk in, I see my dad behind the glass, and I describe it in the book as he seemed powerless, right? And as my mom and my grandma were talking to my dad, I was a 3-year-old, so I was just looking around, just looking around. And there was a line of glass partitions next to my dad's glass partition. And behind every glass partition, there was a black man. And so for me, as a young black boy, right, who already is seeing his dad behind the glass partition, but then to see everyone else behind that glass partition is someone who looks like me, an older version of me, what do you think that is starting to do to my psychology, right? And who I am in society and where I can go in society. And then mind you, too, I have memory. All the officers, the corrections officers or the police officers in there, did not look like me and did not look like those guys behind the glass, right? And so that is just a part of that psychological impact and the psychological warfare that begins to happen. And it starts early, but then it's perpetuated once you begin and you move through school, right? And then the same message is continued. And so that is, and Adam, to your point, that I think in many ways set me on my journey, right, for equity and all that is that earliest memory and that earliest experience.